So the Flash movie is finally out and it is absolutely incredible. I do have to say, I do think it's a little bit overhyped, but considering all of the Ezra Miller drama that went on behind the scenes, as well as, the fact that the DCEU is getting rebooted, and all of the Snyder fans getting annoyed at this, versus all of the James Gunn fans, and the fact that Warner Brothers have wanted to produce a Flash movie all the way back since the 1980s, and all of the delays due to the COVID pandemic, and Warner Brothers just always changing their slate, Warner Brothers having brand new leadership, just constantly changing the slate dates for all of their movies. I think, the fact that this movie just finally is out there is a bit of a triumph in and of itself. And Andy Muschietti, as well as everybody who worked on this film, and there have been so many of them, both from a writing production perspective, as well as from a directorial perspective as well. I just think, the end product is actually really, really brilliant. And, it does definitely have a lot of multiversal aspects in this film. I mean, it's definitely at its core. But it is also a really emotionally driven movie. Very similarly, I would say, to Spider-Man No Way Home, which went on to generate almost $2 billion in the box office. Now, I don't think that The Flash will generate that much money for a number of reasons. Of course, all of the Ezra Miller drama, as well as the fact that they have had so many screenings for this movie. I don't think that people are going to come in their flocks in the same way that they did with No Way Home. But, it is really, really interesting. And the other movie that this film definitely takes a lot of inspiration from is, of course, Back to the Future, which they definitely mention on a number of occasions in this film. And I just think, how they have done the multiverse is really, really clever in this film. I mean, multiverses are really the flavor of the month. Not only are they in Marvel Studios through and through, and of course in the DC universe as well, but also a lot of other TV shows and films have been experimenting and playing with the multiverse. For example, Riverdale recently did this with their 6th season. And I think it was really clever, actually, that they set this movie in a slightly earlier timeline, so you have a younger Barry Allen in this film. And I feel like because of that, you can actually compare it to the earlier movies from a comic book perspective, as it does feel a lot more reminiscent of those. And I feel like, the Flash movie doesn't really care too much about setting things up for the future, which I think is interesting, as of course that is the only thing that shared universes care about these days. And the multiversal moments right at the end of this movie were really, really cool. But I mean, in the DC universe alone, we have seen the multiverse being played out on a number of different occasions now. For example, of course, most recently in Crisis on Infinite Earths, which was absolutely incredible. And of course, even more recently, we saw this in the second part of the 4th season of Titans, where Beast Boy was exploring the multiverse, which was absolutely brilliant too. So, we have seen the multiverse, like I said, within the DC world alone, on a number of different occasions. But that being said, the moments that are in here are really, really brilliant. And even though the visual effects definitely should have and could have been improved so much in this film, especially considering the fact that this movie has just been in production hell for so long, they had so much time to make the visuals even better. And it's really strange. For example, that baby sequence in the beginning when he's running through the multiverse, all of those sequences definitely should have been so much stronger. But what I do really love about this movie is that it really does celebrate the DC universe of characters and films and different universes, incidentally. And I just loved how they just infused so many different aspects of them. Of course, Ezra Miller's Flash character is the consistent across all of this. And even though most of the iconic Batman lines are already revealed in all of the trailer footage, it was really, really brilliant to see this character here. And there have been so many different characters across Marvel and DC that have been trying to explain the multiverse, and most recently, we now have Michael Keaton's Batman doing it, which I thought was pretty hilarious. And then combining this with Sasha Calle's Supergirl character and explaining what happened to Superman in this universe, I thought was really, really brilliant. And then, of course, we have Michael Shannon back as the evil Zod character, and they really did show just how barbaric and twisted and evil this guy is. And I thought it was really clever, actually, that he had the same mission that a lot of the characters had in the Superman and Lois TV series. So you can definitely see a lot of consistent threads across the DC world as far as the Kryptonians are concerned. And I just loved how fast-paced this movie was. And just in the ending was just so well earned, as they have just built everything up until that moment so perfectly. So it's revealed that twisted, evil, dark Flash is the person that caused Barry to fall into this timeline in the first place, after he went even further back in time to save his mother. And then you get to see everything playing out as this evil character wanted. And is then revealed that this is actually a more twisted version of younger Barry Allen, as he has just become obsessed with wanting to save his universe, wanting to save Supergirl, wanting to save Batman. And what I love about so-called villainous characters these days is that they really do explain their motivation, so you can totally empathize and understand where this character is coming from, as at the end of the day, he is just so desperate to save his world. And this is just such a stark contrast to back in the day, you know, when villainous characters were just bad for the sake of being bad, whereas now you really can see and somewhat empathize with his motivation. But, you know, younger Barry Allen was able to see that, you know, this is just causing the destruction of this world, and then he is somewhat able to go back to Barry's normal reality if he saves him. And of course, this will save the entire multiverse, as it was clearly imploding in those final couple of sequences, and then Barry has to do the most gut-wrenching thing ever, which is then to allow the death of his mother to play out. And I just thought those couple of moments were just so heart-wrenching, like I just said. And you really can see what Bruce Wayne, Ben Affleck's Batman, was talking about right in the beginning when he was like, look, certain moments just need to play out. Which very recently Sony just called canon events in their Across the Spider-Verse movie. And of course, in the Marvel What If animated series, this was called fixed events, which just need to play out irrespective of which timeline you're in. And another really cool full circle moment, which goes right back to the beginning of this movie, is that Barry Allen was able to exonerate his father, as he was able to get him to look up by putting the tomato tins right at the top of the shelf, so then this will exonerate him fully from all of the prison sequences, which I thought was really, really clever. And now we have to talk about the final couple of moments that took place just before the credits roll, which are obviously showing that George Clooney is now the Batman and Bruce Wayne of the DCEU. And I think it's really, really clever, as this could either be a really fun little hilarious cameo, or it could have been how things were going to play out in the DCEU, as of course at that moment Ben Affleck was just not wanting to continue playing Batman. So maybe, you know, if things played out differently, then George Clooney would have actually been the Batman of the DCEU. But then again, as we know, over the course of the past couple of years, there have been so many new cameos being filmed. And at one point, it seemed as if Ben Affleck may well return as Batman, and there was apparently a cut sequence which was going to show that Ben Affleck's Batman is screaming out and calling out to Ezra Miller's Flash Barry Allen character, as he is obviously somewhere lost within the multiverse, along with Ezra Miller's proper timeline in the DCEU. And I thought the post-credit scene was actually pretty funny as well, as in this new version of the DCEU, clearly Arthur Curry is an Aquaman, so Barry Allen is trying to get him to understand what his character has the potential of becoming. Now we have to talk about the cut cameos. So apparently there were loads more filmed cameos that weren't included in that multiversal sequence. So we were going to see Linda Carter's version of Wonder Woman. We were going to see Grant Gustin's incredible character of the Flash. We were also going to get Jor-El from the early 1970s movie. And we were also going to get the Joker and the Penguin from the 1960s Batman live action series. So I think those cameos would have just been so good. And people were just screaming out to see Grant Gustin in this movie, especially as Ezra Miller has seen Grant Gustin's version of The Flash in the Crisis on Infinite Earths event. So they just could have and should have done that. But I guess they wanted to definitively show that, you know, Ezra Miller is The Flash. Now, The Flash is a brilliant movie, and by the end of it, it really is screaming out for a sequel. And it is really interesting, as apparently a sequel has been written. Now, the original plan by Walter Hamada was for the sequel to be the true Flashpoint event, which really was going to explode into so many massive DC characters and universes, all properly colliding. As I would say, you know, the first Flash movie is a lot more of a contained emotional storyline, and the sequel really was going to be a Secret Wars level event. And James Gunn and Peter Safran apparently are interested in commissioning this. Obviously, it's going to be very dependent upon the box office performance of The Flash, but I think it's really interesting if they do that, as what will this then mean for James Gunn's DC universe, and will it kind of always have Snyder fans just holding out hope for a continuation in some way, shape or form of Henry Cavill's Superman, Ben Affleck's Batman, etc. So it could be really, really interesting. I mean, I love this film, so I'm really hopeful that they do a sequel, as it really does have the potential to be absolutely brilliant, and I'm just so curious to know what on earth Henry Cavill's cut cameo was going to be, as he was paid over $250,000 to film a cameo in the exact same way as he did for Black Adam. So that could have been really, really interesting, and it could have been setting up the Flash sequel in a very different way. I mean, the future is very, very exciting, and if anything, DC really is now back at the top of their game. I mean, everybody did such a good job in this movie. I mean, Ezra Miller in particular did such a phenomenal job in playing both of these very different types of Barry Allen, and you really are connected with the two of them. I mean, of course, even more so with the one one that we do know and love. But also the younger version, you can really understand where they're coming from, especially when they're suddenly able to get all of these superpowers. If anything, I would have loved them to have explored that aspect of this film a lot more, in terms of, the main Barry Allen doesn't have his superpowers, and this other younger version is just going out of control with it. I mean, I know that they explored this a little bit, but if we are being realistic, then I don't think the younger Barry Allen, who suddenly has all of these incredible superpowers, is just going to follow whatever this older version of Barry Allen is telling him. So I feel like they could have done a little bit more with the brilliant fact that this younger Barry Allen just has all of these incredible superpowers at his disposal, especially as he is a bit of a younger, more crazier, more carefree version of this character. And then also the inevitability of what was going to happen with this version of the character right at the end of this movie just would have meant so much more, and you really would have been even more connected with both of these versions of this character. I mean, it is really crazy, all of the stuff that Ezra Miller was doing behind the scenes after this movie was filmed. But if you are able to compartmentalize that, then I do think, Ezra Miller did do a phenomenal job in this film. Like I said earlier on, Michael Keaton was so good in this film. I mean, it is really tragic what happened with the Batgirl project, as of course he was returning in that film as well. And that could have been really, really brilliant, as he would have been a main character in that film too. And that really did have the potential to be incredible as well, as he was a true main character in that movie. I mean, he is a bit of a main character here too, but he really was leading it right from the beginning, along with Batgirl. So it is a bit of a shame, and especially as it would have followed on from the events that the Flash movie had set up. I wonder if he will have another cameo appearance at the end of Aquaman, as maybe Ben Affleck is now taking that cameo appearance away from him. So let's see what on earth is going to happen over there. But I thought it was really clever how they had a really disfigured version of the Bruce Wayne character right in the beginning, and he was obviously doing a lot of exposition in terms of explaining how the multiverse really does work, and the performance was able to retain everything that we loved about this character from the Tim Burton universe, as well as having a bit of a modern flair in there as well. So like I said, it will be hopefully really cool to see this character once again played brilliantly by Michael Keaton. Sasha Calle was really, really cool too, and you're not really sure what on earth is going to happen with this character in the beginning, as of course you're waiting for Clark Kent. I mean, if this film was released when it was supposed to be released, I feel like this character would have been even more impactful, but of course we just know so much about her now, as a lot of the surprises that could have potentially been really, really powerful in this movie were of course revealed in the hype machine for this film, and of course in the trailers too. But I have to say, this character was really, really good, really, really brilliant, really, really powerful, and it was pretty refreshing seeing a slightly different version of the Supergirl character and not having her being overshadowed by the brilliant Clark Kent character. Iris West was really, really cool. I mean, of course, you did get a bit of a glimpse of her in the Snyder Cut, so it was really cool to see this character in her proper form in this film. And like I said, Michael Shannon was so good returning as Zod. And then my favorite, Ben Affleck, was absolutely wicked right in the beginning of this movie. It really did feel like a true DC comic book animated special event, when you are seeing him trying to save the day with all of the bank robbery stuff gone wrong, and Alfred is in there, and the Flash is in there, and Wonder Woman is there. It just came together so brilliantly, and if anything, I just would have wanted more from Ben Affleck's Batman and Bruce Wayne characters, as he is just so good in the role. But it really did start the film in the most perfect way, and I'm just really excited and intrigued to see what on earth is going to happen next with the DC world and what James Gunn is going to bring with all of these films as well. But overall, I absolutely love The Flash. I think it did take a little bit too long to come out, as if it did come out, 3 years ago when it was supposed to, it would have been even more impactful and even more iconic and even more powerful. But that being said, it is a really brilliant movie, and it really does show how you are able to fully benefit from a shared universe being created, as this is the 13th official entry as far as the DC Extended Universe is concerned, and it was just such a brilliant entry, and it's just such an enjoyable film. And so for all of those reasons, I'm going to give it a solid 8 out of 10. Now I'd love to hear what you thought of The Flash, so let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you in my next video.